Viviano. How you doing? With this video, I'm going to be doing a short little some tips for raising your children without religion. I get a lot of questions on this, so I thought it'd be good to come up with a video on some of the things that I do. Obviously, as a parent, there is no manual to the perfect way to raise your child, and I understand that. So with this video, I'm just going to give you some of the opinions and some of the things that I've used that have worked. And also going to give you some resources in the item description. So, number one of the things I've noticed in helping your child grow and also to teach them is to think is to not indoctrinate them into any kind of way of thinking. You know, we get on religious people a lot because we complain that they indoctrinate their children into a certain way of thinking or religion. But as atheists, if we do that, we are no different. We're not allowing our children to think for themselves. We're not allowing them to explore for themselves. So just keep that in mind. Some of the things that I do to Hello everyone, it's me again, David Viviano. How you doing? With this video, I'm going to be doing a short little some tips for raising your children without religion. I get a lot of questions on this, so I thought it'd be good to come up with a video on some of the things that I do. Obviously, as a parent, there is no manual to the perfect way to raise your child, and I understand that. So with this video, I'm just going to give you some of the opinions and some of the things that I've used that have worked. And also going to give you some resources in the item description. So, number one of the things I've noticed in helping your child grow and also to teach them is to think is to not indoctrinate them into any kind of way of thinking. You know, we get on religious people a lot because we complain that they indoctrinate their children into a certain way of thinking or religion. But as atheists, if we do that, we are no different. We're not allowing our children to think for themselves. We're not allowing them to explore for themselves. So just keep that in mind. Some of the things that I do to prevent indoctrination is we read the Bible, we read the Quran. I actually have Quran right here, Bible right here, King James. But on top of that, I also have another Quran book, Skeptics and Annotated Bible. Recommend you check all these out. So we go through it and then we break it all down. So she has a basic understanding of religion, but the different types of religion. So there's one tip. My number two tip: teach them to question everything. And when I say question everything, I mean even question you. That was the very first thing I taught my daughter. I said to question everything, and she immediately came back with, even question you? And I said, especially me. They can't be afraid to question authority at times. Obviously, there are times where we're telling them something and they're questioning us and you just want to backhand them, but that's a part of being a parent. But I think that builds a strong character because you don't want them to believe everything that they hear. You know, if a doctor comes at you with a lab coat and is trying to sell you pseudoscience, you don't want them. You want their guard to be up. You want them to be skeptical. You want to teach them to be skeptics. 3, to go along with the indoctrination, I also teach them mythology. When I was a young lad, like I said, I've always told everyone that I've been a lifelong non-believer, but I was always into mythology, the Roman gods, Greek gods, and everything else. So this was one of the very first books I ever picked up when I was getting more into my atheism and skepticism. What I enjoyed about this book is when I'm going through it, I can see the story of Noah's Ark. I can see all the stories that our major religions have taken from our old myths. So when I was growing up, learning about mythology, I had this knowledge of mythology. So when I remember a kid came to me in high school and he started talking about Noah's Ark. I'm like, no, I read about the same story in another myth. And so when I threw that, I offended them, but I was armed, so it's like arming your children with tools to combat this kind of gullibility, so to speak. Number 4, allow them to explore. As they get older, a lot of their friends are going to be religious. This goes along again to ride the coattails of indoctrination. If they want to go to church with their friends, let them. It's going to show them and expose them to different types of religions and denominations. I mean, if you arm them with questioning everything, to be skeptical, you're giving them the tools. What do you have to be afraid of? They're probably going to go there. Yeah, they might have some fun. Good. Kids are supposed to have fun. But they go there, and they're probably going to be like, this is bullshit. Because I remember I did the same thing. I went with some friends, and I remember sitting there going, these motherfuckers really believe this shit? So don't be afraid to allow them to explore. I've talked to a lot of parents that do not even allow their children to do Santa Claus or the Tooth Fairy or anything like that. And to me, I do. And they say, as an atheist, why do you do that? Well, one of the main reasons why I allow them to do Santa Claus and all that is because, well, it's tradition. Religion doesn't hold this stigma of, okay, we have all the magical, mystical things. You can't have any of them. I'm sorry. Santa Claus is a part of the Christmas experience. Tooth Fairy is an experience. Easter Bunny. And also, it teaches them, this is my personal opinion. I probably will get some heat for this. But it also teaches them that there are things that parents out there are going to tell you that aren't true. Building that skepticism. That's just my opinion, but it worked for me. Doesn't mean it's going to work for everybody else, but it is what it is. Brings me to number 5. Teaching your children to have compassion and understanding for nature. Taking them on nature walks, taking them into wildlife, explaining nature and animals. Explain why things happen, why things do what they do. Because far too many times do I see people just not having an understanding or care for animals. They don't see them as equal to us. I feel because I grew up with a love for nature and animals, that it was a lot easier for me to understand evolution. And it was just easier for me to understand that we are equal to animals. And if anything, animals are better than us because they don't kill for senseless reasons. They only kill to eat. We kill just for fun. I'm that type of guy that if I'm driving a car and an animal's crossing the road, I'll stop. I'll allow it. I piss people off, but I don't care because I see every living thing deserves a chance. And who are we with all this that we've destroyed their environment, their habitat, things like that. These are the type of things that I instill into my daughters, to love animals, to appreciate them, and to understand them. And I feel like it grows a bonding experience as well. Number 6, to go along with nature is to instill an understanding and love for science. Because obviously we are in a day and age where we are fighting for real science every day. Now, which also brings me to, because a lot of science is too complex for a lot of us normal folk. If you're not a scientist, you have no idea what the hell they're talking about. I have this book, Help Your Kids with Science. It's really helped me a lot, especially because my daughter loves cosmos. And there are times where something goes on and she has a question and I cannot explain it. So we have this book, we go through it, we leaf through it, and she loves it. She wanted to watch a documentary on genetics. Now, I am no genetics expert. I know the very bare minimum that I could probably get away with. So when questions were arising from the documentary, I had to flip to that book. Now, she's 6 years old, wanted to learn about genetics. I don't know, maybe I hit a prodigy. Thank you, God. Another thing we do is we have a telescope and we explore space. So it kind of goes along with that love of cosmos. So again, these are just my opinions and some tips that I've noticed have helped me along with some of the secular parenting. Obviously, there's a lot more out there, a lot more resources, podcasts, blogs, books like that. I am going to put all the resources in the item description, like I said, for everything that's helped me. Obviously, with parenting, there is no manual to make the perfect child. You have to do what works for you and what works for your child. We all have different opinions and perceptions. You got to do what's best for you and what you think is right. If you enjoy this video, please share it, like it, and if you can, subscribe. And always, you can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Google+. I'm everywhere. Thank you so much. Until next time.